Hi. In the last video on the public preaching speeches in the book of Acts, Paul was before a Jerusalem mob. In chapter 23, Paul is addressing the Sanhedrin, convened by the Roman commander to find out what Paul is accused of. There's some back and forth conversation in this portion. We'll read verses 1 to 10. Then Paul, looking earnestly at the council, said, Men and brethren, I have lived in all good conscience before God until this day. And the high priest Ananias commanded those who stood by him to strike him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, God will strike you, you whitewashed wall, for you sit to judge me according to the law, and do you command me to be struck contrary to the law? And those who stood by him said, Do you revile God's high priest? Then Paul said, I did not know, brethren, that he was the high priest, for it is written, You shall not speak evil of a ruler of your people. But when Paul perceived that one part were Sadducees and the others Pharisees, he cried out in the council, Men and brethren, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. Concerning the hope and resurrection of the dead, I am being judged. And when he had said this, a dissension arose between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the assembly was divided. For Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, and no angel or spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. Then there arose a loud outcry, and the scribes of the Pharisee party arose and protested, saying, We find no evil in this man. But if a spirit or an angel has spoken to him, let us not fight against God. Now there arose a great dissension. The commander, fearing lest Paul might be pulled to pieces by them, commanded the soldiers to go down and take him by force from among them and bring him into the barracks. So what I noticed was, first of all, Paul identifies himself as one of them. He calls them brethren, and he shows respect for the office of the high priest. He apologizes for his outburst toward a ruler of his people. And he says, I am a Pharisee. Not I was a Pharisee. I am a Pharisee. By way of contrast, if you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness, you'll know this, but as way of contrast, Jehovah's Witnesses are told to formally disconnect with any previous association with churches if you become a Jehovah's Witness, to make a point of your rejection with the churches to former friends and to your family members, your non-JW family members. Does this encourage dialogue, or does it shut it down and cause the taking of offense on the part of your non-Jehovah's Witness family? What does Paul talk about? Does he talk about the divine name, God's kingdom, last days, Armageddon, paradise earth, God's organization? No, none of those things, which is what we were trained to talk about as Jehovah's Witnesses. Paul says, concerning the hope and resurrection of the dead, I am being judged. Would we as Jehovah's Witnesses ever be charged with that as our message? Paul believes the promises given by God to his people. his brethren. He uses their scriptures to persuade them, to persuade his brethren. Did Paul give a good witness according to Jehovah's Witness standards? No. But from Jesus' viewpoint, listen to what verse 11 says. But the following night the Lord stood by him and said, Be of good cheer, Paul, for as you have testified for me in Jerusalem, so you must bear witness at Rome. He's bearing witness to Jesus. He's bearing witness to, or testifying about Jesus, his resurrection from the dead, as proof of his being the Messiah, the one they were hoping for. So Jesus affirms Paul's message and then sends him to preach it to another audience. If you remember the account with Ananias, Ananias tells Paul that Jesus has told him he will have to suffer many times for his name. I'm going to link to a series that I did called Hope, and it's reading the continuity of promises from the Old and New Testament. So the first one is continuity of prophecy, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, and Moses. And it's straight Bible reading. But if you follow the series, there's 14 in it. I can continue right through into the New Testament with what promises would have been known to Paul's audience, because they're from their scriptures. Thanks for watching.